Let me paint you a picture. You've been working hard. You hit your deadlines. Your work is solid. But somehow you keep getting passed over for promotions, for high visibility projects, for the opportunities that seem to go to people who are, honestly, less qualified than you. What's going on? Here's what nobody tells you. A huge part of how you're perceived at work doesn't happen at your desk. It happens in meetings. Those 1 hour blocks on your calendar that you probably treat like a necessary inconvenience, they are some of the most powerful stages for your professional reputation, and most people are unknowingly blowing it every single time. Today, we're talking about 7 things you need to stop doing in meetings immediately, because right now they are quietly destroying your credibility, and people are absolutely noticing. Let's get into it. First up, being a black rectangle in every virtual meeting. Now look, I know the camera off debate is real. Some days you're tired. Some days the Wi-Fi is acting up. And yes, there are legitimate reasons to turn your camera off occasionally. Nobody is arguing that. But if your camera is off in every single meeting, every single time, without exception, that's a credibility problem. Here's why. In a virtual setting, your camera is your presence. When you're on screen, people can see you nodding, reacting, and engaging. They know you're there. When you're a blank tile with your name on it, you're invisible, and invisibility doesn't get promoted. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When your camera is off, people assume the worst. They assume you're multitasking, half listening, or simply checked out. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. Perception is reality in professional settings. There's also a trust element. Teams build connection through face-to-face interaction, even virtual face-to-face. The people who consistently show up with their cameras on are seen as more engaged, more invested, and more trustworthy. So what's the fix? Make camera on your default. If you genuinely need it off for a session, communicate it. A simple, "I'm having some technical issues today, camera's off, but I'm fully here," goes a long way. Context changes everything. Show up. Be visible. Your career depends on it. Number 2, interrupting and talking over people. This one stings because most people who do this don't consider themselves interrupters. They think of themselves as enthusiastic, engaged, full of ideas that just can't wait. But here's what the room actually sees. Someone who doesn't listen. Someone whose ideas are more important than yours. Someone who doesn't respect the space. And the credibility damage here is significant. Research from Harvard Business Review shows that chronic interrupters are consistently rated lower in leadership potential, even when their actual ideas are good. You can have the best contribution in the room, but if you bulldoze your way to it, people remember the bulldozing, not the brilliance. There's also a compounding effect. When you interrupt one person, others in the meeting become more guarded. They share less. They disengage. You've just made the entire meeting less productive, and at some level, people connect that to you. And let's be honest, this habit disproportionately affects certain groups in the room. Women, introverted colleagues, junior team members. When you consistently talk over those voices, it signals something about your character, not just your communication style. Here's the fix. Practice the pause. When someone is speaking, your job is to listen, not to formulate your response. If you have a thought, write it down. It'll still be a good idea in 30 seconds. And if you do accidentally interrupt, acknowledge it immediately. "Sorry, I cut you off. Please finish your thought." That kind of self-awareness actually builds credibility rather than hurting it. Listen more. Interrupt less. Let your ideas land on their own merit. Habit number 3, running or attending meetings with no agenda. If you're the person who sends a meeting invite that says quick sync or touching base with zero context, zero objectives, and zero preparation, this one's for you. Here's the thing. A meeting without an agenda isn't a meeting. It's a conversation that could have been an email, a waste of everyone's time, and a signal to everyone in the room that you don't value their time or your own. Think about what happens in an agenda-less meeting. The first 5 minutes are spent figuring out why you're all there. Then someone takes the conversation off track. Then you're 15 minutes over time and nothing was actually decided. Sound familiar? The credibility hit here is real. Leaders notice who comes prepared and who doesn't. When you show up without a clear purpose, you're communicating that you didn't think this through. And if you didn't think through the meeting, What else aren't you thinking through? And it's not just about running meetings. If you're attending someone else's meeting and they didn't send an agenda, ask for one. A simple, could you share the agenda beforehand so I can come prepared? Does two things. It makes the meeting more productive, and it signals to everyone that you're serious about your time and contributions. The fix is simple. Every meeting needs three things before it happens: a clear objective, what decision needs to be made or what information needs to be shared, an agenda with time allocations, and a list of who needs to be there and why. That's it. Three things. And suddenly you go from being the person who wastes time to the person who respects it. Agendas aren't bureaucracy. They are professional. Number 4, sitting through entire meetings without saying a single word. This is the silent credibility killer that nobody talks about. You show up, you listen, and you leave, and you think that's fine because you weren't causing any problems. But here's the reality. In a professional setting, silence is not neutral. When you never contribute in meetings, people start to wonder. Are you disengaged? Do you not understand the topic? Do you not care? Are you even paying attention? You might be the most thoughtful person in the room, carefully processing everything, forming the best analysis, but if that never comes out of your mouth, nobody knows it. And in the workplace, what people don't know about you, they fill in themselves. Usually not in your favor. This is especially critical for people who are naturally introverted or who are newer to their roles. The meeting room is one of the most visible stages you have. If you're invisible there, you're invisible in the organization. Now, speaking up doesn't mean talking for the sake of talking. Nobody wants that either. It means coming to every meeting with at least one prepared contribution, a question, an observation, a suggestion, a piece of data that adds value. Here's a simple strategy. Before every meeting, ask yourself, what is one thing I can contribute today? Just one. It could be as simple as affirming a point someone made and building on it. I think what Sarah said connects to something I noticed last quarter. That's it. You're in the conversation. You exist in the room. Speak up. Make your presence count. You earned your seat at the table. Use it. And habit number 5, visibly multitasking during meetings. Scrolling your phone under the table. Typing on your laptop while someone's presenting. Having that 1,000-yard stare that everyone can see, but you think nobody notices. Here's the hard truth. Everybody notices. And the credibility damage is immediate. When you're visibly distracted during a meeting, you're communicating to everyone in that room, including leadership, that whatever you're doing on your phone is more important than what they're saying. That's not a neutral signal. That's a statement about how much you value their time, their ideas, and their presence. There's also a practical consequence. You miss things. You miss the context, the nuance, the undercurrent of what's really being decided. And then later, you ask questions that were already answered, or you miss a follow-up you were assigned, and now you look unprepared on top of disengaged. Even in meetings where the content genuinely doesn't apply to you, your behavior still reflects on your professionalism. Because the people who do apply to are watching. The fix is simple but requires real discipline. Go into every meeting in full focus mode. Phone face down or out of sight. Laptop closed unless you're presenting or taking notes. And if you're taking notes, say so. I'm going to take notes on this signals engagement, not distraction. If a meeting genuinely doesn't require your attendance, the professional move is to say so before it happens, not to show up and mentally clock out. Be present. Fully present. Because half present is its own kind of absence. Habit number 6, leaving meetings with no follow-up. The meeting ends. Everyone logs off or walks out. And then nothing. No summary. No action items. No accountability. Just a vague memory of what was discussed and a collective hope that someone, somewhere, does something about it. This is one of the most overlooked credibility killers in professional settings, because the meeting itself is only half the work. What happens after the meeting is where trust is either built or destroyed. Think about how many times you've been in a meeting where a great decision was made, and then 2 weeks later you're back in the same room having the exact same conversation because nobody followed through. That's not just frustrating. It's a signal to leadership that you and your team can't execute. And here's the individual credibility piece. If you were assigned something in a meeting and you don't follow up on it, people notice. You become the person who talks in meetings but doesn't deliver. That reputation is very hard to shake. On the flip side, being the person who sends a crisp, clear follow-up after every meeting is a superpower. A quick summary email, decisions made, action items with owners and deadlines, next steps. Takes 10 minutes to write and immediately sets you apart as someone who is organized, accountable, and serious. You don't have to be the meeting organizer to do this. You can simply send a follow-up to your own commitments, just confirming my action item from today's meeting. I'll have a report ready by Thursday. That one sentence signals more professionalism than most people display in an entire quarter. Close the loop. Every time. Because what gets followed up on gets done, and the people who make things happen get noticed. And number 7, going off on tangents and hijacking the conversation. You know this person. Maybe you are this person. The meeting has a clear purpose, things are moving along, and then someone says, "Oh, that reminds me of something completely unrelated," and suddenly you're 30 minutes deep into a side conversation that has nothing to do with why you all gathered in the first place. Tangent hijacking is one of the fastest ways to lose respect in a professional setting, and here's why. It signals poor self-awareness. It tells everyone in the room that you either didn't read the agenda, don't understand the purpose of the meeting, or simply don't care. You just want to talk. It also disrespects everyone's time in a very visible way. When you derail a meeting, you're not just wasting your time. You're wasting the collective time of every single person in that room. In a 10-person meeting, one wasted hour is 10 hours of organizational productivity gone. And there's a subtler damage, too. When meetings consistently go off track, people start dreading them. Attendance becomes grudging. Engagement drops. And whoever is known for derailing things gets quietly excluded from the important conversations, the ones where real decisions get made. Now, tangents aren't always intentional. Sometimes a genuinely interesting point comes up that just isn't relevant right now. The professional move? Acknowledge it and park it. That's a really important point. It's slightly outside today's scope, but let's make sure it gets its own conversation. Can we add it to next week's agenda? That keeps the meeting on track while showing that you actually value the idea. And if you're running the meeting, it's your job to redirect gracefully, but firmly. Great point. Let's make sure we capture that separately and get back to our main objective today. Stay on track. Respect the agenda. And if something's worth discussing, give it the proper time and space it deserves, not a stolen 10 minutes in the middle of someone else's meeting. So let's recap all 7. Camera off and checked out signals disengagement. Talking over people signals disrespect. No agenda signals you don't value anyone's time. Staying silent signals you have nothing to offer. Visibly multitasking signals you'd rather be anywhere else. Never following up signals you can't execute. And hijacking the conversation with tangent signals you don't respect the room. None of these are dramatic career-ending mistakes on their own, but they add up. They become your reputation. And in a competitive workplace, your reputation is everything. Here's your challenge this week. Go into your next meeting with intention. Camera on. One contribution prepared. Phone out of sight. And after it's done, follow up. Let people see who you actually are, because the version of you that shows up fully present and fully accountable is the version worth promoting. If this hit home, hit that like button and subscribe for more real talk on navigating the workplace. Drop a comment below. Which one of these 7 is your biggest challenge in meetings? I want to know. Your habits shape how people see you. Make them count. See you in the next one.